Welcome back, Leo Lions. This is Mrs. Morgan with today's lesson over statistics. We're going to first start talking about it. So specifically, we're talking about populations and samples today. But before we get to that conversation, we need to jot down a few of these definitions that I have already included here. So first thing I'd like you to do is write down what is statistics. Bundle 7 is going to be a lot of statistics, or you may see it as stats sometimes. So what are statistics? That is collecting, organizing, and interpreting data. So the way we do this is there's some sort of research that we're looking at. What do we want to find out? Maybe it could be as simple as I am surveying the class on what's our favorite sport. So I would have to go about how am I going to collect that information. Then once I have all the information, well, I've got to organize it in a way that's easier to analyze and interpret. So that's all we're doing here with our statistics. Second one is a survey. So often this is a method, one of the easiest ways to collect data. So if you pose that question of what's your favorite sport, well, we'd go around and we'd ask every single person and then also jot down and collect that information. So next one, population. So population is the large group that is being studied. I almost put down group of people that's being studied, and then I thought, you know what, we could actually survey, or we could actually study like groups of animals and look at patterns of how they behave or how they eat. So you could also survey and analyze, research other groups, not just people. So I changed that to just a group that is being studied. A sample then is a part of the population. So it's a small group of the population, and that specific sample is then surveyed. So it saves time and money to use a sample of a population rather than using the entire population, because usually a population is a large group, and it'd be difficult to survey all of those people. So that's why we use just a portion or a sample of the population. So for these examples, what we're going to do is look at what's the survey topic, and then there's two sets, so set A, set B, that we're going to be looking at to decide, is it the population or is it the sample? So first example here, we have dress code changes. So that's our survey topic. We have set A, so we have a group of students in the middle school, and then set B, we have the 7th graders in the middle school. So think about population is the bigger of the two. So which of these two includes more people, the larger group? Well, all of the students in the middle school, this would be an example of the population. But then we go around and we actually only survey the 7th graders, not every single student in the middle school. Well, then the group of students is going to be the sample. This is our sample, the 7th graders. Okay, so try this next one on your own. We have favorite flavors of ice cream. So we'd go around, survey people, hey, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? So think about that. We've got two groups of people here, the customers at an ice cream shop in the town, and then the residents of the town. So think of which one's bigger, that's your population, and then the ones that are being surveyed, just a portion of the population, that's our sample. So in this scenario, our population is all of the residents in the town, and then we are just going to survey the customers at the ice cream shop, so that is our sample. Okay, so that's our goal for today. Now, Logan wants to survey students in his school about their favorite and least favorite ice cream flavors. Describe a possible sample that Logan could survey instead of surveying the whole entire school. So it would be quite a task to go around and try and survey every single person in the school. So let's think of ways that we could survey people without doing the entire school. So one, there's different types of surveying. You could just do randomly. You could randomly pick out of a hat. You could maybe survey different tables in the lunchroom, many different ways. So there's not one exact answer for this one. I was also thinking maybe Logan could stand at the door, and as students walk into the building, he could survey maybe every 10th person that walks in the door. So Logan could survey every 10th student who walks in the door. And that way you're not surveying the entire school, but you still have a group that would then represent the entire school. Every student who enters the school. Logan could go around to different tables at in the lunchroom. Maybe we could say Logan could choose, let's say 10 lunch tables in the cafeteria to survey. So like I said, there's not one exact answer here, but think of different ways that you could survey without having to survey every single person in the school. And there we go. So there's two different ways. Let's look at this next one then. We can then use the results of surveys or past actions to predict the actions of a larger group. So we use that sample to then analyze and interpret and basically make an assumption that the whole group would follow that trend. So the ratios of the responses of a good sample are often the same as the ratios of the responses of the population. So what I'm thinking here, I was like, there's no question in this. What is it actually asking? So it's looking for an example. So what is an example of maybe a survey where only we survey certain people, but then it represents the whole larger group? So actually what I was thinking about is the U.S. Census. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of this, but a U.S. Census gets sent out every 10 years. And the United States would like every single person in the United States to actually fill it out. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. So the U.S. Census is done every 10 years. And then once they get the results of that survey, well, then they use that to basically make statistics data to include that entire population. So we could say, okay, well, there were 40% that answered that have 2 adults in their house. Well, then we're going to use that for the entire U.S. population, and we're going to assume that 40% of everybody has 2 adults living in the house. So the U.S. Census is done every 10 years. However, not everyone actually returns the census. And then that information is used, such as the average age, the average income, the number of children in the house, and we use that then to represent the entire country and not just the people who responded. So that is our first lesson on starting to think about collecting information, then what do we do with that information, and then we're going to talk about different ways that we can represent the information that we collect so that it's easier to interpret and easier to understand. So there's that first lesson. There is an example or a worksheet then where we're going to look at situations and we're going to decide which group is the population and which group is the sample.